Hello friends, welcome to this another session. This is 1:30 in the night. I have just solved this NEET test 73 released today. And if I look at the paper, this is perhaps took me more time in solving than the last 2-3 tests. So it is somewhat tougher, I believe. The one question I have termed it bouncer because this concept is not expected to be known by you at this level. Question number 34 has some flaw. Question says something x where the solution has taken something else. So going by this, so this tough and bouncer, if I take this is the four questions, and if I do the easy one, it is approximately 3 6 9 12 14 16 18 20 21. You can check, I might be, let's say 1 2, I would have be wrong in calculating also. That is roughly 20 questions are medium and 4 to 5 questions are tough, but it is slightly going to be more time taking paper, so I expect scores to be dipping here. So in this paper, for a student who's let's say comfortable in physics, not very good, but good enough, I think 130 plus score is decent enough, and for very good students 160 plus would be the score, slightly 5-10 marks lesser than what I have to tell for the previous test. So it is not going to be that easy, I suppose. It might happen that the scores I am suggesting you might not get, but don't worry, this paper is slightly difficult, you can assume. So let's start the paper. The ratio between total acceleration of electron in singly ionized helium atom and hydrogen atom both being in ground state is. So in ground state or in any state, acceleration you know is v square by r. So if I check the proportionality, v is proportional to z by n. So this is z by n square, and this is n square by z. So if n is same because both are in ground state, so a would be proportional to z cube. Therefore the a to helium plus to a in hydrogen would be, this is 2 cube is to 1 cube, that comes out as 8 is to 1. So we'll go for option. Now the next one, in Moseley's equation, root nu is equals to a times z minus b, which was derived from the observation made during the bombardment of the metal target with X-rays. A is independent but D depends on the metal. Both A and B are independent of the metal. Both A and B depends on the metal. B is independent but A depends on the metal. So we know both are independent of the metal because both are fixed, that you know from the Moseley's law. And if you have any confusion regarding it, do watch my physics in 5-minute series where I have covered this in detail. Next, a thin rod of length L is lying along the x-axis with its end at x equal to 0 and x equal to L. Its linear density varies with x as k times x by ln, where n can be 0 or any positive number. The position xcm of the cm of the rod if plotted against n, which of the following graph best represents the dependence of xcm on L? So first of all, you know, for n equal to 0, what we have basically, it is a uniform, and for uniform it should be L by 2. So from this observation, the D option is rejected. First of all, you know, if it varies with x to the something power, xcm cannot be L by 2 always, so that option B is C is also rejected. Now regarding A and B, you have to make out how it is going to be, and you can clearly see the variation cannot be like A, it has to be like the B one. And if you want to calculate, you can do this also. What we have the formula, we have xcm as integration x dm upon integration dm, that is what we write. So what we have, x dm what we have is the lambda dx, lambda what we have is k x by L to the power n into dx, that is what we'll have. This is also k x to the power x by L to the power n dx, and if we do this integration 0 to L, 0 to L we have to do. So this kk terms get cancel. What we will have now, this L to the power n is also cancelled. We will have x to the power n plus 1. So integrated, it would be x to the power n plus 2. We will get x to the power n plus 2 upon n plus 2 here from 0 to L, and here what we will get, x to the power n plus 1 upon n plus 1 from 0 to L. So if I simplify it, it would be L into n plus 1 upon n plus 2. This is what we are going to have. So this variation, if you are going to have it, definitely it will be like B, not like A for sure. That is easily you can make it out from all these observations. Let's say you can write it as 1 upon, and you do this n plus 2 minus 1, so that would be 1 minus 1 upon n plus 2. So as n increases, xcm is going to as n increases, this factor is going to decrease, negative factor is going to decrease, so xcm is going to increase. It will be like the b, not the a one. Okay, so that is why what you can directly make it out from this particular case. Now, so next thing we will have is question 4. We have two particles of 1 kg, 3 kg move towards each other under their mutual force of attraction. No other force acts on them. When the relative velocity of approach of two particles is 2, their cm has a velocity of 0.5. When the relative velocity of approach becomes 3, the velocity of the cm. Here, because they are moving under the mutual force of attraction, vcm is going to remain constant, that is for sure. So relative velocity of approach can change, but the cm velocity will remain the same. So it's an easy one, testing your basic fundas. Next one. Small block is shot into each of the 4 tracks as shown. Each of the track rise to the same height. Okay, the speed with which the block enters the track is same. At the highest point, the normal reaction is maximum n. So one thing is clear, because this height is same, because this height is h is same, v at highest point in all the cases would be that v square minus 2gh is going to be same. So at the highest point, if I draw the FBD, what I will write, n will be downwards, mg will be downwards. So n plus mg would be equal to mv at the highest point square into r. So normal would be m vh square by r minus mg. So these all factors are same, so everything now depends on r. That means r, smaller the r, n will be greater. So you have to just check which is the smaller r means the bending should be sharper. So the sharpest bending is in A, so r is least here, so definitely n is going to be maximum. Go for option A. Now, the ratio of angular speed of minute hand and the r end. So what we have, omega of the second hand we have is 2 pi by 60 seconds radian per second, while for the omega for the minute hand it is 2 pi upon 60 minutes, that is 60 into 60 radian per second. So now what we have, this omega second to omega minute, if I do this, what it basically turns out to be, if I do this, this is what we do. Okay, you have to do the minute and the r end. Sorry, I am doing the second and the minute. And the r end, if you do, r end you know turns in 12 hours, so 2 pi into 12 into 60, 12 hours into 60 minutes into 60 seconds radian per second. So what we have, omega of minute to omega of r, that is basically going to be 12:1 for sure. So you can go for option B here. Next one, the immersion heater with electrical resistance 7 ohm is immersed in 0.1 kg of water at 20 degree for 30 minutes. Okay, if the flow current is 4 ampere, what is the final temperature of the water assuming whole of heat produced is consumed in water? Okay, if the flow current is 4 ampere, so what we have, power dissipated is I square r. So what we need for 3 minutes, so total heat supplied, that the total heat generated you can say is equal to I square r into t, and that would be equal to ms delta t. So what we have, 4 square, that is 16, r is 7, t is 3 minutes, that means 180 seconds, mass is 0.1 kg, specific heat you know is 4200, delta t you have to find out. So delta t would be 16 into 7 into 180, and if you do this, this comes out to be 420. So now what we have, 7, we have 6 times, we have this 3 times, so 16 3s are 48 degrees Celsius for the sure. So go for option B. Calculations are also not that difficult. But wait a minute, it should not be 48. I am doing a mistake, because what they have asked not the change in temperature, they are asked for the final temperature, initial is 20. So 48 it is the change, so you have to go for 68, not the 48. So be careful about it. Okay, next, what we have shows the graph of current versus applied voltage for a diode. Approximately what is the resistance of the diode for an applied voltage of -1 volt. Okay, so look at this curve. This curve goes like here. So what it is asking, the resistance for -1 volt. So resistance for -1, here what you see, this is basically always 0. Current is not changing even for voltage, so you can directly go for infinite, or it would have been a very large value, you know. So as per the option, it would be infinite. Also from the curve, it's infinite. Next, the reason a moving coil galvanometer cannot be used in an AC current is that the coil bends easily, coil heats up too much, sparks can be produced, the net magnetic field produced is 0. So the net field basically will be 0, because it will be continuously changing, it would be changing very fast. so the average value will turn out to be 0. We cannot say the field at every instant is 0, but the average value will come out to be 0. It will continuously provide torque in opposite directions, and the average will come out to be. Now the next one, which particle will have a minimum frequency of revolution when projected with same velocity and perpendicular to a magnetic field? Okay, so which particle will have a minimum frequency? So what we have, frequency you know is qb upon 2 pi m. It doesn't depend on velocity first of all, so this in the same perpendicular field, so f will depend on q by m. So if I take for q by m, here we have, this is E by, let's say I can have lithium will have a mass of, let's say what we say, 6 times protonic mass. This is what we have, E upon mass of electron. Here we have E upon mp, and here we have E upon 4 mp. So definitely this is going to be the least one, so we'll go for option lithium plus. Option A is the right one. Next, if a charged spherical conductor of radius 10 cm has potential V at a point distant 5 cm from its center, then the potential at a distant 5 cm from the center will be. So 5 is inside, so inside we say the potential would be kq by capital R. Okay, and outside what we will have, outside we will have as kq by small r. So if I take it, this is V upon that V dash, let it be V dash, so that would be equals to R by R. R is 15 and it is not 5, it is 10 centimeter because it is the radius of the surface. So V dash is going to be, you can say 2V by 3. So we'll go for option B here. Next, find the force of interaction of the two dipoles if the two dipoles moments are parallel to each other and are placed at a distance x apart. Okay, so what would be the force of interaction? So let's say I say this produces the field, so the field of this at this point, because it is the equatorial point, this field would be in this direction, so it is parallel. So the force would be something like P2 into d1 by dr type thing. So d1 by dx I can write here because of r, and d1 because of the first one, equatorial position, what you have, the field you will write it as minus kp by r cube, so minus kp1 by x cube. So you differentiate it with respect to x, so this minus I can take although we have to only calculate the magnitude kp1 p2 and 1 by x cube, that would be what you have, that minus 3 by x to the power 4. So value would be 3k p1 p2 upon x to the power 4. So going by this, what we will have is, this is option A that we are going to take. Next, the acceleration due to gravity on the moon is 1/6 of the acceleration due to gravity on the earth. If the average density of the moon is 3/5 that of the earth, the moon's radius in terms of earth radius r is. So what we have, acceleration due to gravity ratio is given, average density is given, the moon's radius would be, so g at surface you know is 4 by 3 pi rho g r, that is what you write. So g at surface of earth to g at surface of moon, that ratio would be rho of earth to rho of moon into what we have, radius of earth to radius of moon. So what we have, this is 1/6, so this ratio is 6th. The moon's radius, what you given, average density of the moon is 3/5, so this is 5 by 3. So what we have, that is re by radius of moon, so radius of moon comes out as 5 re by 18. So 5 by 18, that basically comes out as 0.27, because 18 3s are 54, so it would be 0.27 is the closest one we can go for. Next one, a space station is at a height equal to the radius of the earth if v is the escape velocity on the surface of the earth, the same on the same space station is. Okay, so it is at a height equal to the radius of the earth, so it is be like here. So here the small r will become 2r. So we know here the escape velocity would be root 2 gm by small r, which will come out as root 2 gm by 2r, or you can say is root gm by r, or you can say that is equal to what we have at the surface, you know the escape velocity is root 2 gm by r, so it is basically 1 by root 2 times of that, because the speed required would be less because it is less tightly bound. Next, three identical rods AB, BCD, PQ joined as shown. P and Q are the midpoints of AB and CD. Okay, AB, CD are this temperature, the direction of the heat flow in PQ is. Okay, so what we will have as the direction of heat flow in PQ will be, you have to find it out. So going by the current analogy, these are identical rods, so I take this half section resistance to be R, this would be again R, this would be 2R, this would be R, and this would be R. Okay, so here, like we check in the Wheatstone one, the direction, the best thing is, let's assume this was not there. So let's assume this was not there, and let's say this is removed. Now going by the analogy, if this connection was not there, I can say the temperature of the midpoint would have been 50 and this midpoint would have been 45. So clearly, whenever you join something, because it is at a higher potential or the higher temperature, current will go from here to here. So the direction I can easily judge out. I'm not saying temperatures will be 50 and 45, but this is the way you judge how the current flows. So analogy I've drawn here. Next one. Calculate the heat absorbed by the system in going through the cyclic process shown in the figure. So how much heat is absorbed? So again, what we have to do, we have to just find out the area of this curve to find out how much heat is absorbed. And the area of the ellipse, you all know, is equals to pi times AB, where A will be this radius, B will be this radius. So this radius is 1 into 10 to the power 5 on the pressure terms, and here I have not taken the perfect screenshot, it is 300 here, so that would be 100 here. So 100 and this, so this comes out as what we get in centimeter square, centimeter cube. I think it cannot be in centimeter square, volume is never in square, so let's say 10 to the power minus 6. So what we have it as 10 pi means 31.4 joules, so I'll go for option B here. Okay, so correct it should be centimeter cube. Next, in the thermodynamical process, the pressure of a fixed mass of gas is changed in such a manner that the gas releases 20 joule heat, 8 joule of work is done. If the internal energy was 30 joule, then so 20 joule of heat is released, so Q would be minus 20. Work is done, that is minus 8 on the gas. So as per the first law, delta U is Q minus W, that would be minus 20 minus 8, that comes out as minus 12 joule. So internal energy will decrease by 12 joule. So this will decrease by 12 joule. It means the final internal energy will be 30 minus 12, that is 18 joule. So I'll go for option B, that is the correct one. Next, we have a long solenoid of length L, has a mean diameter D. It has n layers of windings of n turns each. If it carries a current I, the magnetic field at its center will be okay. So what we have, long solenoid, L turns, mean diameter D, small n layers of windings of n turns each, carries a current I, the magnetic field at the center will be. So what we typically write, the field at the center we write is mu naught Ni. Here number of turns per unit length, total turns will be n into n, so that is mu naught Nn upon L into I. So definitely it is not going to be dependent on D, it is independent of D for a long solenoid. Next one, 4 very long wires are arranged as shown in the figure so that their cross section forms a square with connection at the end, so that current I flows through all wires. The length of each side of the formed square cross section is B. The magnetic field at the central point P is. I think I have done this question maybe in JEE main test. This has come in the NTA test. So let's start it. The length of each side form is B. The magnetic field at the center point P will be. So first of all, what we will have, if I try to look at let's say the observer is somewhere here, so what he will see something like this. This is the square, this first wire, let's say this is going I, this I current goes inside, and for the second wire this is coming out, so it would be like this, it would be I. For this third one is also coming out here, and this fourth one, it is also coming in here. So now what would be the field? So first of all, if I see due to the first wire, if I check the direction, because it is going inwards, the field would be somewhere here. For the second one, because it is going outwards, it would be somewhere here. For the third one, because it is going out, it would be again here, and for that it would be again there. So what we can directly say, if this produces B, this would be 2B naught, this would be 2B naught, so net field would be 2 root 2B naught, where B naught is due to the one wire, and due to the one wire, what I can write, mu naught I upon, what I can say, mu naught I upon 2 pi r, because it is an infinite wire what we are assuming. So mu naught I upon 2 pi r, and what we r would be this semi-diagonal would be what we say, its side is B, so semi-diagonal length would be B by root 2. Okay, so that is B by root 2, and that is what we are going to write. So this comes out as 2 cancel up, this comes out as 2 mu naught I upon pi b. That is the value that I am getting, so I'll go for option B here. Next one, the ratio of intensity of magnetization and magnetizing field is called. Okay, so that is the intensity of magnetization, that is basically what we call it as m basically, so that m by h, that is basically chi, and chi is called the magnetic susceptibility, that is what you call it. Next, a ball is dropped vertically from a height d above the ground. It hits the ground and bounces up vertically to a height d by 2. Okay, neglecting subsequent motion, its velocity varies with height h above the ground s. So above the ground you have taken as positive. So first of all, when you drop it, so velocity would be downward, so it would be negative. So it should be negative initially. So velocity is first of all negative as per this idea. Okay, so if it is negative, so for the h or the d, it will first go in the negative direction like this. It is going here, not here. Here the velocity with h cannot be linear, you know, because here also it is going like this. So we are left with a and d. Now when it jumps up, it goes up, so then the velocity should be positive. So this d1 cannot be possible because here it is negative, so only option left is a. So going by the sign convention and the details given, only a justifies. And this is a question you all have done because this is a previous examination question, I suppose. The angle with the velocity vector of which the velocity vector of projectile thrown with a velocity v at angle theta to the projectile will make up horizontal after time. So it's an easy one. Let's call it alpha. So tan alpha would be vy by vx. You write vy, you write as uy minus gt, and that you write as ux because vx remains same. So uy by ux, basically what we can write it as, uy is v sine theta minus gt, and this is v cos theta. So clear cut, we are getting the option D, that alpha would be tan inverse v sine theta minus gt upon v cos theta. So that's an easy one. A bob of pendulum of mass 50 grams is suspended by a string with the roof of an elevator. If the lift is falling with a uniform acceleration of 5, the tension is, because lift is going down, so what we have, g factor will reduce, or you can say, if I draw it in the frame of lift, so the pseudo force will act up. So mg, the pseudo force ma naught will act up, plus t, so t will become, because in the frame of lift it should be at rest, so mg minus a naught, that is 15 to 10 to the power minus 3 mass. G minus a naught would be 5, so that is 215 to 10 to the power minus 3. So what I have, 215 to 10 to the power minus 3 Newton, or you can write it as 0.25 Newtons. Next one. The acceleration due to gravity on the planet A is 9 times the acceleration on planet B. Man jumps to a height of 2 on the surface of A. What is the height of the jump on the same planet? So what we can say, height is basically u square by 2g, that you write. So because what happens, the gravity on the planet A is 9 times that on B, and the man jumps 2 meter on A. So what we can say, h on A to h on B directly would be equal to, assuming same u, that would be gb upon ga, and gb upon ga is 1 upon n, so h of B would be equals to 18 meters here. So you can go for option D here. Next one. The half-life of a radioactive substance is 30 minutes. Okay, time it takes between 40% decay and 85% decay, so you should be very, very careful about it. So if I draw the remaining number n with t, so if I draw this number of nuclei remaining with t, 40% decay means 40% decay and 40% means 60% will be remaining. So it is from 0.6 and naught, let's say this is t1, to 85% decay, that is, it remaining is 0.15 and naught. So let's say it's t2. So what we can say, if this is x, this is clear cut x by 4. So the number to become 1/4, this window would be 2t half, because it is the logic that you reply. So 0.6 to 0.15, that is 1/4. So 2t half would be needed, that is 60 minutes is going to be needed for this particular thing. Next, mass of the nucleons together in a heavy nucleus is greater than the mass of the nucleus. Yes, definitely, in every nucleus you see, because this is the stability factor comes from this thing, because the mass is shed out, so it is greater than the mass of a nucleus. Next one. Two SHMs are represented by the equations like this and this. Okay, the ratio of the amplitude, what you can say, amplitude here is 20, and what would be here, you all remember a sine theta plus b cos theta. The amplitude in this case is root a square plus b square. So if I do this, this would be 10 square plus 10 root 3 whole square under root. So it comes out as 10 and this comes out as 4, that is 20. So amplitude ratio is 1:1 for sure. So this is a very common question. You all should be able to do this. Next, a simple pendulum is taken to 64 km above the earth's surface. 64 is, you can still regard it as very small, so what you can say, delta g by g, I can write it as minus 2h by r. So that is, h is what, 64 km, that is 6400. So in percentage term, if I can write, it would be minus 2%. So g is decreased by 2%. So time period you say is 1 by root g. So the change delta t by t is half times delta g by g, negative sign, so it will increase by 1%. So time period is going to increase by 1%. Next, the threshold frequency for certain metal, if the light is this, then the cutoff potential, what you will write? You will write Kmax first of all is h nu minus h nu naught. So what we will have, 6.63, or better do it in EV, that is the more appropriate one. So write h as 4.14 into 10 to the power minus 15 EV seconds, and if I do this nu minus nu naught, it would be 8.2 minus 3.3, that is 12 minus 3, 9, 7 minus 3, 4.9 into 10 to the power 14. So what you have, this is 4.14 into 0.49, I can write EV. So this is what we have, 49 Forza, if I do it is 196, 49 ones are 49, 9 ones are 49, and 19, that will give me what I'll give me, it will give me 68, and 49 Forza again 196 and 6, that will give me 202. So that is not 20, that is 2.0286 EV. So the stopping potential would be 2.02 volts. So as per the options, it would be closest would be 2 volts. I will go for it. Next, K1 and K2 are maximum kinetic energy of photoelectrons emitted when light of wavelength lambda 1, lambda 2 respectively are incident. If lambda 1 is 3, lambda 2, then now what do you have? Now K1 would be hc by lambda 1 minus phi, okay, and K2 would be hc upon lambda 2 minus phi. This is for clear. Now the ratio, if I do, so this is lambda 1 is thrice of lambda 2. This is thrice of lambda 2, that means I can say lambda 2 is thrice lambda 1 by 3, so it becomes 3hc by lambda 1 minus phi. Now you all know 3hc by lambda 1 minus phi is greater than 3hc by lambda 1 minus 3 phi. So what I can make out, K2 is definitely greater than 3 times K1. So what we have, K2 is definitely greater than 3 times K1, so option B is the appropriate one. So this is also a very common style question that has been come again and again. Let a steel bar length L breadth be deloaded at the center by a load W, then the sag of bending of the beam is. Now I'll advise leave this question, because the formula here that is studied in engineering in the first or second year in mechanics, I don't think this is the formula that is applicable at your level. This question has to be left out, because this is not going to be dealt by you. No point in doing this. Leave this question. This is beyond your non-usual theory that you are expected here. You are not expected to solve such a question. Next, the pressure at the bottom of a liquid tank is not proportional to the acceleration due to gravity. Depends, density depends, height depends. So definitely it is area. Pressure doesn't depend on the area. You know that thing, that what you can say, the hydrostatic paradox or something. So you know that thing. Next one, the refractive index of the material of a concave lens is mu. It is immersed in a medium of refractive index mu1. A parallel beam of light is incident on the lens. The path of the emergent ray when the medium's index is greater than mu. So the nature will reverse. So instead of concave lens, it will behave as a convex one. So not A, not B. It will behave like convex lens. So it would be like C. That is going to be the answer here, because you all remember that 1 by f is n of lens upon n of medium minus 1 into 1 upon r1 minus 1 upon r2. So if the medium has the more refractive index, the nature of the lens changes. So the concave one will behave like convex and convex one behave like concave. You must have done this thing. Now two convex lenses of powers 2d 5d are separated by a distance 1 by 3 meter. The power of the optical system is, again you have to directly use this particular formula. Remember this 1 upon f equivalent would be 1 upon f1 plus 1 upon f2 minus d upon f1 f2. So what we will do, so in the terms of power you can write that equivalent power is p1 plus p2 minus d times p1 p2. So 2 plus 5 minus 1 by 3 into 2 into 5. So what we will have, we are going to have 2 plus 5 7, and this would be 7 minus 10 by 3, that we are going to write it out. So what we have, this will come out as 7 minus 10 by 3, that is 21 minus 10 by 3, that comes out as 11 by 3. So I don't see any option here. I can't help, there is no option. And the solution, they have taken one power to be 2 and one to be 3. In the question they have written 5, so I can't help. So for this is still a bonus one for you. And let's say the solution that they have done taking 3, then we have 2 plus 3 minus 1 by 3 into 2 into 3. So that would be 5 minus 2, that would be plus 3. So in that case it would have been D, but right now it would be bonus. So this is if P2 is taken as 3D. Next one. 4 similar point masses are symmetrically placed on the circumference of a disk of mass m and radius r. Mi of system about an axis through center O and perpendicular to the plane of the disk is. So what we have, similar or symmetry on the circumference of a disk. Let's say like this, m, 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 and it a disk of capital M and radius r. Moment of inertia of the system about an axis passing through center O and perpendicular. So what we have, first of all, due to disk would be mr square by 2, and each of them will have mr square and that multiplied by 4. So you have that mr square by 2 plus 4 mr square, easy one for you once you understand. Next one. A right triangular plate ABC of mass m is fixed to rotate in the vertical plane about a fixed horizontal axis through A. Okay, it is supported by a string such that the side AB is horizontal. The reaction at the support A is going to be, again I think I have done such a profile somewhere in some paper. So first of all, what we will see, this is the hinge here. So there will be tension acting upwards and mg will be acting at the cm. And if for the right this circular triangular plate, I can make out this distance from this axis would be L by 3. You can directly say, assuming let's say 2 and 3 masses here, so these two will be on the same line, so the gap would be ml divided by 3m. So it is L by 3 here. So this is L by 3. So what you can do now, the torque of the tension and this should be balanced. So T into L should be equal to mg into what we have, L by 3. So T is mg by 3. So now T is mg by 3, that is acting upwards, mg is downwards, so forces are not balanced, so that reaction force will act upwards. No need of any horizontal force because no horizontal force is acting. So reaction at A would be mg minus T, that comes out as 2 mg by 3. So we'll go for option B here. Next one. In a common emitter transistor amplifier, CE amplifier that you call it, the audio signal voltage across the collector is 3 volt, that is the V output. Resistance of collector is 3, current gain 100, base resistance 2, the voltage and the power gain would be. So directly I can say voltage gain is beta RC by RB. So what we have, beta is 100, RC is 3 and RB is 2. So 100 into 3 by 2, that is 150. From here only you are left with only one choice, and you also know power gain would be voltage gain into current gain. So that is 150 into 100, that is going to be 15000. Next one. If A is 1, B is 0, then in terms of Boolean algebra, it's an easy one. It is 1 plus 1 now. 1 plus 1 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 1. Simply what it means, it is B here, no. It is B dot B bar, no. A bar, no. It is A here. Next. The coefficient of volume expansion of glycerine is given. The fractional change in its density for a 30 degree, for a what you can say a 30 degree rise. Okay, so for a 30 degree rise, what is the fractional change in density? Here we can write delta rho by rho is minus gamma delta t. Typically what we write, so it is 49 into 10 to the power minus 5, delta t is 30. So what we have, this is 49 into 30. So what we can do, 3 9s are 27, 3 4s are 12, 14. So minus 147, I can write 0 into 10 to the power minus 5. So what you can have it is minus 1.47 if I do 3 powers into 10 to the power minus 2. So closest would be this. So I'll go for the closest option, whatever it is given. because this is also an approximated version. Actually we have to take the inverse of volume, but for a small change it will suffice. Next, the internal and external diameter of a hollow cylinder are measured with the help of vernier. The values are this. The thickness of the wall of the cylinder is, so let it be something like this. So you need to find the thickness. So you are given diameters. So if I take the difference of the diameter, you will get double the thickness. So what we have, double the thickness would be the difference of 2t would be, what I can say, it is d2 minus d1. So t is d2 minus d1 by 2. That is what I can write. Okay, so this is the thickness that I have got. So this 2 is from the definition. So what I can make out, if I do this, first of all, the difference of the 2, if I do d2 by 2 minus d1 by 2, error, if I do delta t, I can directly say is delta d2 plus delta d1, because that 2 is by definition. So the error would be plus 0.02 for sure, so I can reject these options. And what we'll have, the value expected, if I take the differences of the two, what I will have, this would be 13 and 7, that is 6. This is 11 and 8, 3.36 that I have, divided by 2, that is 0.18. So 0.18 plus minus 0.02, I'll go for option B for this particular case. So be very careful with the error things. Next, so here vernier caliper word is used, but that is not required how you read the vernier, because that is simple error analysis question. In the ideal double slit experiment, when a glass plate of thickness T is introduced in the path of one of the interfering beams, the intensity at one position where the central maxima occurred previously remains unchanged. The minimum thickness is, that means we know the part difference introduced is equal to basically what we write as n minus 1t. So in the minimum case, that should be equals to lambda, so that t minimum would be lambda upon n minus 1, because then also it can, then only it can be a maxima. So lambda upon 0.5, that comes out as 2 lambda. So again, not a tough one, you have done such profiles. Even CBSE boards ask this sometimes. In YDSE, the fringe width is found to be 0.4 if the whole apparatus is immersed in water. This is the same question we did probably in JEE Main, I don't know, without disturbing the new fringe width. So fringe width is lambda d by d. So in dipping in water, lambda will change, so the fringe width will also change. So what we will have, lambda when dipped in water, it will become lambda air upon 4 by 3, that it becomes 3 by 4, so that also become 3 by 4, that is 0.3 mm for sure. So this is question number 42. Next we go for 43. A transverse wave is represented by this. For what value of wavelength is the wave velocity equals the maximum particle velocity? Wave velocity is omega by k, and Vmax of particle is omega a. So what we have, omega a equals omega by k. So this a is equal to 1 by k. 1 by k is 2 pi by lambda, that is lambda by 2 pi you can write. So what we have, lambda would be 2 pi a. I can write it as 2 pi a. So go for option C. Again, a very common question asked in the exam. Next one. Tension is decreased by 19% in the wire. The percentage decrease in frequency is because F proportional to V proportional to root T. So what I can write, F naught upon nu F would be root of T naught upon T, but that would be 0.81 T naught. So now what we'll have, we will have it as 1 upon 0.9. So F would be 0.9 times the F naught. That means it decreases by 10%. So we can go for option B. Next one. Wind power generator converts wind energy into electrical energy. Assume that the generator converts a fixed fraction of energy intercepted by blades into electrical. For wind speed V, the electrical power output, this is a very common question. You directly take that is proportional to V cube. And how to do this? What we can say, what is the energy that falls on it in per unit time. So energy falling per unit time, that is dE by dt, would be the mass falling per unit time into its kinetic energy, and that fraction that you can have, half dm by dt into v square. And this dm by dt, that you can say, because the wind is flowing like this, so we can have this dm by dt as rho av, rho into volumetric flow rate, and this, it is a fixed cross sectional area, so that depends on v. So basically it comes out as v cube. So F is proportional, so what you can say, this power is proportional to v cube. That is what you can directly make it out in this particular case. So it would be proportional to that v cube thing that you can talk about. Next paper is ended. So this was today's paper. Thanks for watching. Keep sharing, keep pouring in your comments. Thank you once again. I am now started posting the PDF on my Telegram group. The group name is NTA Abhyas NEET solution, physics solutions of NTA Abhyas NEET. You can search it out, you will find it out. I'm sharing the PDFs every day. I'll share this PDF also by